takes over.
Hello everyone, in this video we'll be going through and just using some of the things we discussed in the first two videos of Introduction to Hard Ops and Box Cutter to just make a quick object to use in our fourth video. So to start out, I'll just press Q and C-sharpen the object, raise the B width a little bit, but not the segments because I want to show you all something. And we will press Q and choose Step. This bakes the bevels in, so if we adjust the B width, it no longer affects the bevel width because this is now baked in physical. But I'm going to press Alt W to go into box cutter mode, and to show you this in action, we're just going to cut here. So you see this bevel is the only bevel that's live. The bevel that's been applied we'll never be able to go back to and adjust. However, we are able to iteratively work downwards in bevel widths to create smaller and smaller details. So to kind of show how step acts is if you're familiar with C-step, it's exactly the same. This is just an evolution of the workflow, so all the knowledge you obtain working with that going forward will still be able to help you. So we'll press Alt H to unhide it because C-step or step mode will hide it in edit mode in addition to making the icon blue. So if we go through and we S-sharpen, you can see that we basically re-beveled our edges, which is the last thing we would ever want. So to show how inside out sharpening fixes this, we'll press Control tilde, go to MISC, and just click on the 45 and now adjust it that way. Previously we would have to use the F6 menu and change it here, which would undo redo as you dragged it up and was just a disaster. So this way definitely works a lot better, and in fact all these options here work with all these sharpeners that are in Hard Ops. So all these boxes you check have their reason. Now the reason that seam is here is because if you have the seam marked where the sharps are marked, you can actually quickly select areas by pressing L. So I may showcase that as well. But just to continue, we'll put our cursor here, and I'm going to use box cutter. Press Tab to drop the box, and we'll use the middle mouse button to bevel one side. We'll press C to cut to cursor. You can tell it'll cut there because the edges are green. And voila. So we're still adjusting this bevel, and we're just putting shapes in here. So here we'll cut in another rounded box, one of my favorite shapes to make with this tool, in addition to this long one you see at the top. Now, in order to get a little bit farther with this, I will need to put a loop cut going across this in order to be able to shift these a little bit. So we'll just select these two, Control plus, and hide it, and we'll use a box cutter feature of Control D, which will allow us to fast bisect. And we'll just flatten this on this object. We'll dissolve this edge just for simplicity. We'll go back in edit mode and unhide it. One of the byproducts of C-step mode. We could always change our C type to S-sharpen or C-sharpen to go back, not S-sharpen, that's not a state. And we'll mark these as sharp just to you know, put a little differential in there to work with. We'll put our cursor here, and we will go back and cut another box shape here to cursor depth. We'll look at it from the side, and we're just going to flat out just cut this piece off. Maybe a disaster, but in this case it worked out. So we'll go here, cut a little notch, cut one more notch, and then we will demote it. And now we'll just slice this piece off. Now, even though we X-mirrored this when we cut it through box cutter, I actually want to just use L to select this, and we will just delete that, and I will auto mirror it. Not auto mirror, I'll mirror it. Using the wrong term will make it confusing. Sorry about that. And we'll just round that edge, and we'll go in here and we'll just bevel that edge, which will push it back because it's up against an end-gon, allowing us to quickly push that up. Alt X mirror, and we'll just keep that going. So I will do another cut here. We'll cut it to there. Pull this back. And then we will draw another box here. And actually lasered it because I forgot to cut to cursor depth, but we'll just keep it. It's a happy little accident. So up here on this top piece, we haven't even worked with it yet. So to show you one trick I use using the mirror is if I go under Mesh Tools, under Symmetry Options, if you have Auto Mirror, you'll have an Auto Mirror button here. So I will Auto Mirror, which will split the mesh in half. In fact, in this case, it did not work. We'll go in Edit Mode, unhide everything. Then over here, we will Auto Mirror. I actually think we may have found a glitch here, but for the sake of this video, we'll just continue. So I'll press F, and then we'll mark that as sharp. So under modifiers, we want to uncheck merge and just put it at the top here. So basically it's mirrored, but there's a nice seam at the middle. So this is something I do to a lot of pieces in order to have a nice seam line that goes on as a result of the mirror ending. So it's almost like turning the mirror into an advantage. In fact, in this case, I don't even need the actual mirror anymore. So we will just go through here, cut this piece off. Give it a simple bevel without the motion, and now we can't just be cutting through this thing willy-nilly. So we're back to working in a controlled fashion. So I'll press C, roll the wheel to lower the amount of segments, give it a little bit here, and on this thing I want to use Control D, which is the fast bisect. Okay, and we also want to take our lines we created from that and bevel them, so that way we can shift them. Something I'm always doing in my modeling is the shift. I just call it the shift. Just bevel to create an edge and then offset it manually. Like right here, I will bevel this to push it down directly because it's up against an end-gon, and then we'll just tighten that up a little bit. So in my work, I just call it the shift. Just be modeling, thinking to myself, why not assign names to this stuff that I find myself doing repeatedly. So the top has some stuff going here. However, we want to take it a step further. So I will slice this part off. I'm also listening to some music as I'm working, and the musician's killing it. What song is that? Alright, so from here we will box cut this area off. So I always like to kind of shift an area around, make it a little interesting, and then just cut it off, maybe make it its own thing. So the reason that we even mirrored this in the first place is so that everything that we cut off will just be auto mirrored instead of being mirrored by us relying on the tool to accurately mirror its behaviors to the other side, which can be a little random, but just call me old-fashioned. So from here we will demote this, roll it, we'll bevel this edge. So on the front here, we're just going to do a real quick cut there, just give us this section, but there's something else happening here. So we just want to double check and make sure we didn't cause any geometric pain to the object. And you can see that as a result of me using 3 segments, this mesh just really cannot take this sort of abuse. But I did that to illustrate a point of that you are able to use a C-step, S-step workflow even on lower type geo, even though it may not be recommended. I was reading this polycount thread on how you do them shapes. I read about 108 pages of it, and the answer on every question was pretty much add more geo. So, I mean, I'm not telling you should add more geo, because then I'll get a bunch of people talking about, hey, the bevels aren't working good on lots of geo, but maybe check out the thread a little bit. It's good to see how people solve problems even in other applications, because it'll inform your usage in this application. So we will go here, we'll cut a shape, and we'll round it out, press C, so we look at this from the top, and I'm just going to put the cursor there. And this time I'm going to press numpad 8 to look up a little bit. And we'll tab it there. We'll press C, cut to depth. Let's try this again. We'll look there. And we'll just cut a nice angle shape in here. We can see that the auto solution edges that Blender gives us are less than ideal. So we'll select these 2 points, press J, dissolve this edge. Right here, we can just create a couple of loops, use J to lightning bolt them to each other, thus getting rid of that one and that one. So our work continues. We'll Alt-X mirror that. And, with our cursor depth about there, we're going to look at it from the top and just do a regular old cut, hold and Alt. Just classic. So we did that, and we'll just mirror that across. So you see at this point, I'm not even using the mirror of box cutter, because it's so odd to have now. It's definitely not something I planned for at its beginning. I never had it on the to-do list of things to request. So it just kind of came out of the blue. But I do hope everyone finds some use with it. But if you ask me, there's more than enough mirror solutions for all of life's problems. Maybe. Second I say that, someone will probably think of a situation in which there is no solution. In which case, you're the mirror master. So we see that the geometry is looking a little slid here. We could probably just slide this in, and that'll just kind of improve the shading a little bit. But really it doesn't matter, because it's the bottom of the shape. I'm not even looking at that. But I do want to go here and just cut off another piece. And so at this point, we're just going to just slap it all with the material. I've been using gray lately, and then using colors as accents in my work versus before, where I would use colors primarily and then have Kevlar be like an accent. So first thing is I want to go into Material Helper and just make some modifications to the material real quick. The Material Helper wasn't working very good in version 007 when it was first implemented. However, that was fixed for version 007.9. And also, why is this responding so slow? We'll give it a moment. Alright, and we'll just adjust our gray. And we'll also go under render setups and just use the first render set, so that way the render will look good. And now we'll collapse these two so we have access to the cutting material. We're just going to select chrome. So now every time we cut, we're cutting chrome. And in fact, for this shape, let's go ahead and use the auto mirror trick on it again. So we will go here, auto mirror, you know, it didn't actually work because C-step objects aren't programmed for auto mirror. I may have to make an update to auto mirror, or go forth with our plans on unifying the mirror sooner. But that is something to keep in mind if you are following this video, is you will have to unhide the mesh in order to use that. The auto mirror plugin has no idea what hard ops is, so just something that we'll have to look into and more than likely fix. Right here, I selected this edge all the way to this edge and just demoted and rolled the wheel to give it a nice manual bevel. So now let's go in here and cut this. Now the other advantage to doing single cuts on a mirrored mesh is that it works a little bit faster than versus there being a mirror on the double mesh and a mirror on the mirror object. Just something worth experimenting with. But you see these cases where I do a material cut and the entire mesh turns blue. That means that the material cut fell due to me either hotlining or there being some underlying issue on the other side of the mesh that I'm not aware of. In fact, in order to demonstrate that these problems are solvable, I will just use the knife tool, press K, C, and put a knife cut all the way across. And let's try it again. Alright. Did it go all the way through? Maybe there's a hole in the mesh somewhere. And we're using the carve method, so we'll just cut it a little bit longer. Now the strange thing about this is that I can assure you that if I tab into edit mode and press L and separate this, this is a separate piece. And if I go here and I remove the chrome material, or I just make it back gray again, the cut was successful. This is due to a change in the way that we separate meshes in hard ops. More likely we'll need to fine-tune that a little bit more, but like I always say, you have to roll with the punches. So I definitely want to show an example right there of just how you you have to actually cope with shortcomings and try to figure out solutions to them. So we'll do another cut here. If this one fails, I'm going to jump up from my chair and just start screaming. Alright, and we'll go over to this side. We'll do a cut here. And we see there's a little bit of garbage there. You know, we can actually probably use, not that option, we could probably use clean mesh and just get that. On this one, you know, I'll just actually clean it up manually. Now, since this is a mirrored object, I can't press Alt X on it because that'll be bad. So we'll also dissolve that trash. Now we're going to go in and just change this to a red material, and we're just going to slice around here. And we'll slice around here. So here we can see what happens when you hotline. If we Alt H, the cut is just too close to that edge, so it's never going to work out. We just slide a little bit of ways and that will do. However, this piece in the middle may also have to have the same fate. There, just to keep them even. But hotlining is a very real and big concern. When it comes to hotlining, is part of the reason why we don't prioritize snapping to edges too high, because that's just where hotlining comes from. If you hit an edge with a boolean, you will have what's called a hotline, where your mesh will probably disappear, or the boolean will have a glitch and not work, and you'll have to move the mesh around or toggle the boolean modifier in order to get it to behave right. or even toggle the bevel modifier. There's so many strange things that can happen from booleans, and hopefully you can see in some of these videos that you know, I'm not immune to these situations happening. However, there is usually a mesh related issue that's the answer for whatever the case is that it's not working. And once you solve that, I feel that it probably makes you at least a better modeler, more capable, since, you know, these problems are things that you know, will happen all the time, especially if you're trying to make what's the word? If you're trying to make you know, difficult shapes, or you know, like double curve cuts and things like that. Like, the better you understand your bevels, the trickier you can get with your cuts and still get away with it, and they still work out. In this video, I'm actually, you know, I'm using a control object of a cube, so this is definitely much easier. I actually had a couple of outtakes from when I was trying to demonstrate another tool that is the reason that I'm going back and actually making this more advanced look at hard ops and box cutter. So let's go ahead and render it real quick. I'll close box cutter so I can press Shift Z, and we just look at it, and it's just a box. So, you know, we'll press Q under insert. We'll grab a few inserts. Now, the thing about the inserts that I must always mention is that inserts hasn't been touched or updated since they were first put in HardOps 006. I think I may have made some updates in 007, just modifying things to make them more capable. But for the most part, these tools are the same. So the reason I say this is, you know, people are having issues in later versions where if they load up an adjustable insert, which is the inserts with an A, they will crash Blender or have issues. But we haven't made any changes to the file, so this is just showing us that there's, you know, big changes happening within Blender itself that haven't quite stabilized yet. So we do expect that the inserts will get better once again in upcoming releases of Blender, especially this upcoming 2.79. Alright guys, I just heard a noise. I'm afraid to admit this to y'all, but last night I saw the largest rat I ever saw, and it just locked eyes with me and just like tore into the bread. Just no remorse. Like, this rat was huge, like Dark Souls huge rat. I was speaking with one of my other friends about it, and he was saying I should go ahead and try to kill it just like with a weapon. It's like, you know, I don't think people attack rats with knives, and I don't think people use their knives after they attack rats. But sorry, I got caught up in talking about rats for some reason. Look at me, I'm a real Charlie Day. Sorry, we'll get back on topic here. So now I'm adding a few inserts just because inserts are classic. Can't just leave inserts out of a model. And for our next video, when I'm using DECAL Machine, which I keep accidentally bringing up because of brain lapses thinking about rats now, we'll fast bisect there in order to ensure this object's success. And you notice that every time I do a cut, it's actually being mirrored. I mean, every time I do a cut, it's actually receiving chrome as the insert. That should make the render a little more interesting. But believe me, the next video will be making this cube a lot more interesting. Because of the simple beveling, I don't really like the shading that's going on here. But for our example, we had to. In fact, I keep accidentally pressing DECAL Machine. Gotta stop doing that. So we will, of course, put our logo here because I haven't made a decal for HardOps yet. And we'll put that on the other side. But instead of duplicating the icon to the other side, we're actually going to insert the not that one. This one's wrong, so I'll Control-Z, undo that, insert, and we'll put in the box cutter logo. Okay, it actually didn't, it undid back to the step where we didn't apply it, so we'll just put this insert here. And we'll select this piece, and I'm just going to Alt-P to unparent it, because on this one it doesn't even have to be merged, it just has to be placed, because that one did it. And so here we go, we're getting started with this, so I'll press Q again and not D. I keep accidentally bringing up DECAL Machine, just goes to show how quickly my mind goes to the tool now in my workflow. So it took no time for me to become acquainted with it, but I'll save that for the next video. Let's just keep goofing off here. So we'll C# that, merging it, we'll mirror it across, and we will give it the same material. We will go under Q again. This time I'm going to show you one of the adjustable inserts. This insert has an empty at the end. That's a hook, meaning that if we move it, it'll adjust the size of it. It was just an idea at the time that we were making inserts that I had for making different types of inserts. So it is an idea I may be revisiting at a later point whenever the system is a bit more stable. Right here, I'm just going to tab into edit mode and just delete all that garbage, just because. And we will link the material. Voila. So continuing on, I will press Q and not D, because what is wrong with me? I'm telling you, I try to drink a bunch of coffee and energy drinks before these videos, and it just messed me up. And from here, we'll press C merge, and then mirror it across, and then just steal our material from any of these other inserts that have material. So all the inserts have material indexes in the event that you're needing to link them, in this case, because I definitely don't want to press Alt-M and see this. In just a moment I'll show you how I actually take care of that. We'll just put one more insert here. Now in this example I'm using way too many inserts. I definitely recommend using these inserts smaller and less. Every time a new guy picks up hard ops, the first thing they do is just cover an object full of inserts, you know. But definitely the smaller that you use them and the more tastefully that you hide them, the more brilliant they are in their usage. DECAL Machine actually offers the ability to add your own inserts, unlike hard ops. That's just something we chose not to focus on. And we'll flatten this edge out that we fast bisected, and we will C merge. And that looks especially nice with the little red edges here. So a little more red than I usually would do. If my friends were around, they'd grab me by the shoulder and be like, "Sir, that's enough. That's enough red out of you today." Let's go back to non-colored colors like black and white. So here we have this object, you know, just real basic. You know, maybe one more adjustable insert to close this out. And so you can see that these inserts are a little wompy whenever you move them around and such. So that could be part of what causes it to give crashes on older installations of Blender or certain installations of Blender. It's a problem that we haven't been able to pinpoint because it comes up so randomly. Sometimes I'm even using PLS and I will get a error access violation error and Blender will close. But of course I will just reopen it and get back to work. So from here we will go ahead and just render real quick and just let it play out. So This is a another introduction to just hard ops and box cutter, just in use on making just a quick object. In the next video, I'll be introducing y'all to DECAL Machine, and we'll be using that a little bit more on this object to go even farther with the details, hence me leaving some areas blank. But with that, we'll go ahead and end this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. In this video, before I cease recording, I just wanted to show you one more thing. We'll select this object and press Alt-M. As you can see in this list, there's a duplicate material created for every insert that I put in here. You can select everything with A, like here, and press Q, and under Operations you can material link, which will link all the materials. But to delete these materials, we have to come out and go into the outliner here. The outliner is a good friend. I've been looking at it in 2.8, and I just wish that they just kept it like this. I love the outliner in its current state, maybe because I understand it inside and out. But right here, we can see under orphan data all the things that are garbage in the scene, basically, that need to be removed. We'll go ahead and click on Purge All. Usually I have to click it twice. And now if we press Alt-M, our material menu is back to normal. However, there is some object in the scene still that has materials on it. So we actually can use batch operations for this, because I don't like any of these materials being in the scene and assisting. So we will link materials, we will purge the materials, and now our list is back clean again. So with that, now we can go ahead and end this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.